I want to first welcome everybody. This is our first annual stakeholders meeting. I am Carl Cox. I'm the donor relations manager here at Central South Carolina Habitat. And this is our second session of two specifically for donors and donors and sponsors. So if you are not, for some reason, a donor or a sponsor, that is okay. You are still completely welcome to be here with us today. This is something that really we're going to start doing annually towards the start of our new fiscal year, which for us runs July 1st to June 30th. And we figured this would be a good time with you all to review the last fiscal year, go over any highlights, any challenges, our goals for the new fiscal year. And then at the end, we want to make sure that you all have the opportunity to ask any questions, give us any comments, any ideas. You know, the affordable housing issue in the Midlands and really around the country, it's a real issue. It's a large issue. It's going to take a lot of people's involvement to make the kind of impact that we want to make. And locally, we have made a significant impact in the lives of hundreds of our homeowners and really thousands of lives if you start including children and grandchildren, neighborhood residents. And so I first want to say how grateful we are to have caring, supportive partners like you in this mission. None of that would have been possible without your support. So I just want to say thank you for your belief in our mission. One of the highlights for us as a Habitat staff last year was we had a new executive director, Suzanne Brooks, that started with us in January. And for those that have not met her yet, a little bit more about her background. She, for 6 years prior to Habitat, was the president and CEO of the Spartanburg Historical Association. She has a bachelor's degree from Meredith College, a master's degree from Marymount University in interior design with a focus on adaptive reuse and rehabilitation. She also holds qualifications for a South Carolina General Contractor's License and has an extensive background in historical preservation. So you can obviously see she has a great background to be a Habitat executive director, and more importantly, has been that way in person as well. Without further ado, Suzanne, if you're ready, I'll turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the introduction. I really appreciate it. This has been a true privilege to be able to onboard with Central South Carolina. Habitat for Humanity has been an organization I volunteered with from my high school days, which I'm sure many of us would share a story like that. So being able to work with our staff here in such a large service area has truly been a blessing for me. So I appreciate the attention this morning as we get to share some of our updates with you. And I'd like to acknowledge one of our board members who's been kind enough to join us for a couple of these calls. Tom Ledbetter is the chair of our fundraising committee and an absolutely integral part of our board of directors. So I just want to give him a quick shout out that we appreciate your attendance and your support as always. So as Carl mentioned, I've been fortunate to join you all in the area here starting in January, but I have inherited a strong and very meaningful foundation of leadership at our affiliate, which was founded over 37 years ago. In that time, we've completed just over 270 homes, and we are very much working toward building on that legacy. I just received word this morning that we're going to be satisfying another mortgage with the sale of a home coming up very shortly. So we're moving very quickly toward our goal of reaching 100 satisfied mortgages in the existence of our affiliate, which is fantastic news as well. But as Carl laid out for you this morning, I'll be sharing with you some of the successes of the affiliate over the last year, as well as some of the challenges. It would be remiss for us to say that we had smooth sailing all year. All of us, I think, can share in the fact that post-COVID, we're continuing to navigate a little bit of a shaky landscape. And then briefly, I'll be sharing with you some of our goals and initiatives for the current fiscal year, 2022 to 2023. Here in just a moment, I'll be sharing some before and afters of the 4 homes that were completed over the last fiscal year. And I am excited to share that just before the completion of the year, we did break ground on 2 additional homes that are currently under construction. One which should be wrapping up here in just the next couple of weeks, and another that will finish up just before our fall build season begins. I'm really looking forward to sharing with you our neighborhood revitalization update, as NR is quickly becoming really the face and the foundation of our 3 to 5 year strategic plan that we'll be adopting within this fiscal year. This past year, we did complete 8 home repairs, as well as start the application process for 9 of the projects that are currently in place. And I'll be sharing with you a little bit more about the expanded scope of work that we're expected to complete in the new year. Now, I hope this will be the first of many opportunities that you have to speak with me and many of our staff members, but something I think you'll be hearing a lot more of is a focus on our direct service and our homeowner service department. We celebrate the end result of the Habitat experience in our home buying process, but the rigorous and competitive process that our candidates open themselves up to through the application process is truly something that we want to feature as they are putting themselves through financial and home assessments, all for a very small group to be selected in May of each year. This year, we selected 8 candidates, which make up our 2022 cohort. They've just kicked off their 1-year commitment to education workshops in homeownership as well as financial literacy, and they've started already to chip away at your 300 hours of sweat equity. We have a great group this year that I hope, especially as our sponsors, you'll get the opportunity to meet more than one of. And then finally, Carl mentioned we filled 1 vacancy in the last fiscal year, but I've been very fortunate to welcome several new staff members as part of our transition as well. In March, we welcomed a new finance and operations director who has jumped right into building our new fiscal year's budget and completing this year's audit, which is an annual commitment that our finance department makes. We are just 1 week shy of welcoming our new volunteer programs manager, which is an expanded position within our staff, allowing us to really lay the foundation of what will become our volunteer department in the next coming 2 to 3 years. We are closing in on hopefully a few candidates for our new donor engagement manager. We are still accepting applications. So as our close partners, if you have some recommendations or colleagues who are looking for work in the development space, we would certainly welcome some additional applications for a donor engagement manager. And as always, I do love to brag on our Restore. Our general manager was welcomed to the staff in October of last year and has completely transformed the shopper and donor experience at our Restore located in West Columbia. They closed the gap on what was going to be a pretty dismal year financially and ended up closing out with a profit, which is an exciting turn of events and really a testament to the very hard work they've put into, as I said, really transforming that shopper experience. If you haven't had a chance to shop at the Restore in the last few months, I can't encourage you enough to take a stop over that way. They're always putting something new on feature or on special, and it's made it a really interesting place to visit. And none of this would really be possible without the leadership and the direction of our board of directors. Many of you know Renia Jameson, who served as our board chair for the last several years. Her term of service sadly came to an end, but we've been very fortunate to welcome David Pavela as our current sitting board president, as well as Chaz Friendly, who rolled off as a very loyal and long-serving treasurer. We are now working with William Jeter as our current board treasurer. So as promised, I'd love to share with you the before and afters of our 4 completed homes in the last fiscal year. I do quickly want to draw attention to the bottom of each one of the upcoming slides, as this is where we've been sharing with our public groups as well as our fellow donors, those of you who supported the completion of these projects. As Carl said, none of this would be possible without you financially, but I think it's important to acknowledge that you all are a vital part of our volunteer corps. You help us swing hammers and lay foundation, whatever is needed. We love having our sponsor groups come out and be a part of this process. And really the unique experience of being able to bond and build relationships with our homeowners. You can see here in December of 2021, Sarah and her son dedicated their home in Irmo. This was a rehab project that we purchased in cooperation with the with Lexington County. And it's one of many that I hope we'll continue to embark on, and actually one of two that we completed in the last fiscal year. Project number 2 is located in the town of Lexington. As I mentioned, it was also a rehabilitation project. This home had been actually moved to the town of Lexington and then abandoned and unfinished for many years. Habitat was able to come in, not only complete the portion of the home that was relocated, but also make the addition of bedrooms and bathrooms to make this an acceptable home for one of our homeowner candidates. This is probably one of my favorite projects, as I've bragged on it. We were able to salvage and refinish the original hardwood flooring and beadboards throughout this house. So it really is a unique home. It's not terribly far from our second home in the town of Lexington, which happens to be the 4th home that we've completed in our partnership with the town of Lexington. This is located on George Street, and I'm very excited to announce that in the fall we'll be breaking ground just directly across the street here on a simultaneous build, which is a really great opportunity for our construction department to double capacity and help us meet the goal of housing 2 of our candidates in a much quicker time. In February, Benita and her sons dedicated that home there on George Street, and we're excited to welcome a couple of her new neighbors very soon. And then finally, the 4th home completed in the last fiscal year is located in the Broadacres neighborhood of Casey. This was the 16th home that Habitat has completed since 2015 in the Broadacres neighborhood. And I love sharing this story and statistic with you. Some of you might have been present at the 2019 More Than a Home Gala when the now retired Police Chief Snellgrove shared with our group that prior to Habitat intervening in the Broadacres neighborhood, this particular area was experiencing 10 to 15 emergency calls a month. One of the streets was closed to through traffic because the area had gotten so inundated with significant crime, and police officers were not sent to respond to calls alone. Habitat had since come in, started a home repair program in the area, building new homes like this one located on Allen Street. And in that time was able to share that instead of 10 to 15 calls a month, this area was only receiving 10 to 15 calls a year. That through street that was closed to traffic due to increased crime has opened back up to traffic and is now a very busy area of children riding their bikes, people enjoying their front porches. So it really does go to show that your investment and hours into a community is more than just for the home of a deserving homeowner like Antobio, but it really is an investment in the entire community and the safety and livability of that area. So I love sharing that story, and Toby's home turned out just beautiful. So that's a perfect segue for us to jump into our neighborhood revitalization update. Many of you might recall that in 2014, Central South Carolina became a neighborhood revitalization affiliate. It's a program recognized by Habitat International. In that time, we've completed right under 70 projects. I think we're sitting at 69 right now. Last year, 8 of those projects were completed, and we are slated to complete 15 projects, which we fully expect to actually surpass that goal, considering we are already 9 projects into that goal for the current fiscal year. I mentioned that this is really going to start becoming the face of Habitat as it's starting to develop how we acquire new land for our infill construction within these communities. Something that neighborhood revitalization puts at its core is changing neighborhoods one block at a time. What we're doing now is repairing homes around the neighborhoods where we're currently building. Through a neighborhood assessment program that we're developing with the University of South Carolina, we're identifying the challenges and opportunities within at-risk communities where Habitat can not only come in and build new construction, identify rehabilitation projects on blighted homes, as well as identify our critical home repair opportunities. We're also identifying safety issues such as inadequate lighting, improper crosswalks, unsafe bus stops, as well as inadequate access to services, whether that's direct services such as broadband, healthcare, as well as additional services such as after-school programs and continued education. So obviously Habitat can't check all of those boxes, but we have a wonderful network here in the Midlands that as we've continued to have conversations, we're building a group of individuals who will help us identify and address these issues over a 2 to 3 year commitment in each community. The goal is that at the end of that 3-year commitment, when Habitat and our partners start to step away, this community will have a new class of neighbors through some of our candidate homeowners who will have built and lived in that area then. They will have either revived or created a neighborhood association, and through civic leadership training, will have the tools to advocate for the safety and livability of their community. What we don't want to see is Habitat coming back in 10 to 15 years later, repairing the same homes that were built in that area. So it's preparing those homeowners in that neighborhood with the tools to succeed. We're really looking forward to that. And as I mentioned, we could not do any of this without our community partners, especially the services and the churches that are already doing work in these areas. They're integral to helping us host our community fairs, as well as meeting the neighbors and putting a face with the initiative. Neighborhood revitalization does not stop at home repair either. We do repair work and service within community centers and local churches, as well as green zone opportunities such as pocket parks and community gardens. So this is obviously something I get very energized talking about, and it's going to be a really great opportunity for our donors and sponsors moving forward, as it will be a holistic approach to the candidate application process. So as great as it is to talk about our successes over the last year, I think we can all expect for us to share with you some of the challenges as well. The most probably, again, predictable challenge for us over the last year was the rising cost of construction material and wait times in partnership with our subcontractors. If we've reached out or you've reached out in the last few months, you'll now know that the current cost for Central South Carolina to complete a home, including land acquisition and labor, is $165,000. That's a 35% increase than what we've come to our donors and sponsors with before. Big reason of that, obviously, is the rising cost of construction materials and the rising cost of land and real estate. We all know that real estate has been in a huge boom recently, and that has made our land acquisition process rather challenging. We do have the support of our counties and cities on a reimbursement program, so we're limited to be able to offer market value for a lot of the property that we would be interested in purchasing. So with that said, there's some explanation as to the increase in the cost of Habitat projects. We also are seeing an increased demand on our subcontractors. So that not only impacts our wait time, but also their affordability. Neighborhood revitalization does contract with roofers for one of our most common home repairs, which is roof replacement. And what we were seeing as $3,000 to $5,000 bids in the past are now looking more like $8,000 to $12,000 bids for the exact same work, the exact same square footage. So it's an increased challenge for us to be able to pass those cost increase on. It requires us to raise more money. Now, one question that we get often is, did COVID impact the need of Habitat services? And the easy answer is 100% yes. I mentioned earlier that we accepted 8 applicants in our 2022 cohort. They were selected from 89 individuals who made it through the application process, which is a 50% increase than what we've seen in years prior. We think that this is easiest to identify as mandates and requirements to work from home and school from home made it challenging for folks who are home insecure or were in unfortunate situations where domestic violence or access to direct services was limited or non-existent. This just raised everybody's awareness of having a safe and equitable place to live. So the Habitat program is a perfect solution for so many of these individuals. However, that impacts our wait times for our candidates. By selecting our 8 new homeowner candidates, we now have 26 individuals who are waiting for their homes to be built. Ideally, you're on the Habitat wait list for 12 to 18 months maximum. Some of the homeowners who I shared in this past year's update had been waiting for close to 3 years, which is really unacceptable. And all of it is tied into some of the challenges I've shared with you today. We are looking to whittle that down to a maximum wait time of 18 to 24 months, which is not perfect, but it's taking a step closer. But in order for us to do that, Habitat is going to have to increase our construction and housing ability and capacity, which we'll talk a little bit about in our plans for the new year. Now, again, we've celebrated our staff, the new staff members that we've welcomed, but it would be unfair for me to acknowledge that the vacancies during that transition were, of course, a challenge over the last year. That meant work that these individuals would normally be doing in their field position wasn't happening. We're very happy to say that that season of transition is behind us, but it is a 100% fact that it was a challenge within our last fiscal year. And those of you who, again, have worked with us closely over the last few years are aware that our More Than a Home Gala was canceled for the second year in a row in October of 2021, which is our largest fundraiser. I'll be sharing with you the details if you haven't already heard that we're back on to host the gala this year, and we're excited to welcome everyone back. Now, very quickly, I'll share with you some of our goals for the new year. We are 1/3 of the way toward completing 6 of the homes that we expect to finish here in the new fiscal year. We are slated to complete 6 new construction projects within the fiscal year. We are 9 projects into the 15 that are slated for our neighborhood revitalization critical repair program. As I said, we fully expect to actually surpass that number, which is a really exciting projection. Now, one of the opportunities I mentioned that we are looking to expand upon is subcontracting part or all of our construction projects out so that we can raise our construction capacity and meet the need of those 26 individuals who are currently waiting for their homes. This would change some of the dynamics of our volunteer capability. That'll never stray from being a core value of Habitat for Humanity. But obviously, our first priority is to house the 26 individuals who have been accepted into this program. And so if raising our capacity means working with larger and more subcontractors in the new year, it's something we're more than willing to explore. As we adopt our new neighborhood revitalization neighborhood assessment program, we're also considering alternative floor plans, meaning right now our standard house is a 3 to 4 bedroom, welcoming back a 2-bedroom floor plan, as well as playing with the architectural styles of the exteriors of our home, as we strive for our Habitat homes to really fit into the vernacular and play a role in the cohesiveness of the neighborhoods where we build. And then finally, something that might be appealing to our donors and sponsors is the unveiling of our partnership menu. This has come from several bouts of feedback, so a couple of trainings. In fact, we have one later this afternoon as well, where we're exploring how we as a recipient could value the investment of our donors more through different services of partnerships, including family sponsorships. So helping us offset the cost of those education workshops that our homeowner services department prepares and delivers. So that's something that Carl will be sharing with y'all as soon as it becomes available and is polished up and ready to send. But I hope this will be an exciting opportunity for you to explore new ways to be involved with and support the Habitat mission. So as promised, I said we will be sharing our More Than a Home update, and we are very excited to say that as of the last 24 hours, we have confirmed that Dawn Staley will be joining us on October 20th as the keynote speaker at our More Than a Home Gala. Dawn will be answering some questions directly from us as well as the audience, and we are very grateful to have secured her a couple years ago because, as you can imagine, she's in hot demand right now. In addition to continuing to search for and welcome table hosts and sponsors, we have announced a program booklet this year where some of our smaller businesses might have an opportunity to support the More Than a Home Gala through purchasing an ad as low as $100, which is a great way to welcome some new sponsors and donors as well. As many of you have become very familiar, we are always looking for volunteers. It's not required to make a donation to volunteer. We welcome groups on weekends and Thursdays year round. So if you ever have a colleague or a friend who's playing around with the idea of, is Habitat the right place for me to spend my time and money, we'd love to welcome a new group of volunteers onto any of our sites. And I reassure folks all the time, no experience is required. We teach you everything you need to know, I promise. And volunteer shifts are not only available on our construction sites, but also in our restore, which can sometimes be a little bit more welcoming. If you're not following us on our social media, this is a great place to kind of get up to the minute invitation information, as well as some of our success stories. We always announce our dedications and our first nail ceremonies through our social media. Our donors and sponsors typically receive those invitations, of course, but you're welcome to attend any of those throughout the year. And our website, of course, is updated regularly as well, and is a great place to locate our donor partnership agreements and some of our upcoming menus, which will become available shortly. So I want to leave you with a quick story today before we open things up to questions. The individual on the in the photograph on the right in the long pink skirt is Tolando. Tolando was a Habitat intern here at our office several years ago. She has relocated to North Carolina with her husband, where she completed her master's program as a licensed social worker in that area. But what I love to share about Tolando is the individual on the left is Tolando as a young girl in her family's Habitat home. She and her family were recipients of a Habitat home. And as you can see, the trajectory of success that she went on to achieve, and it influenced her career direction by working in the field of social work, which is obviously near and dear to our mission here. It's a great reminder to us that Habitat is, as we say it, more than a home. This is a generational impact that our homeowner candidates are making, not only to their children, but their grandchildren and the communities around them. So we celebrate Tolando, and we look forward to hearing the updates on the new home that she'll be purchasing very shortly. But I'd love to leave folks with that information and that inspiration, as it's a great reminder as to why we do what we do, and appreciate your support for that very reason. So with that, I will open the floor to questions, comments,